The night Jeems told me he needed $50 million, something inside me froze. Not because of the money, but because of the fear I saw in his eyes when he said, "Samin." Don't ask why. Just get it before Sunday. I blinked, waiting for him to laugh, to tell me it was a joke. But he didn't. He stood in the middle of our living room, silent, his hands trembling slightly, his face pale. I felt like the air itself had turned heavy, as if the walls were closing in around us. "Jeems, are you serious?" I asked, my voice shaking. 50 million? That's impossible. He looked at me, and for the first time in 12 years, I saw a man I didn't recognize. His eyes were wide, hollow almost, and there was a tension in his jaw that made me realize this was not about money alone. "Please, Samin, just trust me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do not ask why. Just get it. Before Sunday, or we lose everything." "Lose everything?" I whispered back, disbelief clouding my thoughts. "Jeems, what are you talking about? Who could possibly—" I stopped. There was a look in his eyes that froze me mid-sentence. He was scared, terrified, and whatever it wasn't something I could argue with. He moved quickly then, closing the windows, locking the doors, drawing the curtains tight. He silenced both our phones and walked back to the couch, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I wanted to reach out, to touch his hand, to comfort him, but his expression warned me away. That night I barely slept. Jeems was restless. Every few minutes he would get up, check the locks again, glance at the shadows outside, then pace the room. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was a business emergency, a failed investment, but no part of me could ignore the sense of imminent danger. By 3 a.m, I couldn't contain my curiosity any longer. "Jeems," I whispered. "Please, just tell me. What's happening?" He froze, staring at me with a look that made my heart skip. "Samin, you have no idea. The less you know, the safer you are." "Safer, Jeems?" "Safer from what?" My voice was trembling, a mix of fear and frustration. He didn't answer. Instead, he sat back on the couch, burying his face in his hands. I knew then that whatever this was, it was bigger than both of us. Bigger than anything I had ever imagined. The next morning, Jeems left the house early, saying he had urgent matters to attend to. My curiosity got the better of me. I followed him discreetly, keeping my distance. He didn't go to his office. Instead, he drove to an old abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. My stomach churned as I hid behind a row of trees, watching. 3 men were already there, tall, imposing, silent, the kind of people whose presence alone made your skin crawl. Jeems approached them cautiously, carrying a black briefcase. I couldn't hear the conversation clearly, but fragments reached me. "Sunday. Last chance? Debt? Or she pays the price?" She meant me. I felt my knees go weak. My heart hammered against my chest. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about life. Our lives. When Jeems returned home that evening, I confronted him. "Who are those men? What did you just do? Why are they talking about me?" He sank to the floor, his face buried in his hands. "Samin, I should have told you sooner. But I couldn't. I thought I could handle it myself." I knelt beside him, my hand on his shoulder. "Jeems, what's going on? I can help you. We can figure this out together." He looked up, his eyes full of despair. "You don't understand. My past. The mistakes I made before we met. They've found me. The debt, it's real, and it's dangerous." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Dangerous? How dangerous?" He swallowed hard. "Samin, if I don't repay them 50 million by Sunday, they will take you. Or worse." I froze. I couldn't breathe. The room felt suddenly smaller, the walls pressing in on me. "Jeems, what do you mean they will take me? Who are they?" He looked away, ashamed. "People I thought I left behind forever. Men I crossed in my old life. I thought I was done with them. I was wrong, and now they want revenge." Tears welled up in my eyes. My husband, the man I loved, the man I trusted, was standing on the edge of a cliff, and I could see the fall below. The only thing I could do was act. "Then we fight this," I said firmly. We fight it together. You're not alone, Jeems. We will find a way. He shook his head slowly. You don't understand, Samin. They're not just criminals. They are smart, ruthless, and patient. We don't have time, and there's no one we can trust. I clenched my fists. Fear surged through me, but beneath it, determination ignited. I would not let these people win. I would not let them harm Jeems or me. Over the next day, I watched, studied, and planned. I learned that these men were all driven by greed and pride, that they could be manipulated if one knew how to push their buttons. And I knew I had no choice but to take a risk. Late at night, I began drafting a plan, one that relied on cunning rather than force, intelligence rather than brute strength. I would create a trap, a scheme so tempting that it would force them to turn on each other. The idea of manipulating 3 ruthless men made my stomach twist, but it was our only chance. As I worked quietly, I could hear Jeems moving around the house, restless and worried. He didn't know I was planning something, and I couldn't let him. If he found out too soon, panic would destroy everything. That night, I barely slept. I imagined every scenario, the worst case, the best case, and everything in between. Every detail of my plan had to be perfect. If I failed, if even a single thing went wrong, we would both pay the ultimate price. By the early hours of the morning, I had the outline ready. A fake investment proposal, irresistible, promising a return double the amount they demanded. I would send it anonymously, creating just enough distrust and greed to ignite conflict among them. And if my calculations were correct, their own desires would destroy them from the inside. I waited, heart pounding, knowing that the coming days would decide everything. The clock was ticking toward Sunday, and with every passing hour, the stakes grew higher. I had never felt such fear, but I had also never felt such clarity. Survival depended on courage, cunning, and a willingness to step into the unknown. And I was ready to step. I decided I couldn't just sit and wait for whatever was coming. I had to know, had to see with my own eyes what Jeems was dealing with. Early the next morning, before he left, I quietly followed him, keeping a safe distance. He didn't go to his office as usual. Instead, he drove out of town, past the familiar streets, into the darker, quieter outskirts. My heart pounded with every turn. What was waiting for him and for me on the other side? Finally, he stopped at a dilapidated warehouse. Its walls were cracked and faded, the windows dirty and broken. A place no one should willingly enter. I ducked behind a stack of crates, peering around the corner. 3 men stood there, tall and imposing. Their presence alone made my stomach twist. They didn't speak much, but every movement they made was deliberate, controlled and dangerous. Jeems approached them cautiously, carrying the black briefcase from the night before. I strained my ears, trying to catch what they were saying. A few words reached me. Sunday. Last chance, debt. Or she pays the price. She pays the price? I whispered to myself, frozen. My hands trembled, my breath caught in my throat. That she was me. I could feel the weight of their intentions pressing down on me even from a distance. For hours, I watched silently. Jeems' every movement was calculated, careful, but his fear was evident. His face flickered with tension, his eyes darting to every corner, as if expecting an attack at any moment. I realized then that he wasn't just scared for himself, he was scared for me. I returned home that night, my mind spinning. I needed answers. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to confront him, even if it risked pushing him away. When he walked in, I didn't hide my knowledge. "Jeems, I followed you," I said firmly. His face drained of color. The briefcase slipped from his hands, but he didn't make a sound. He sank to the floor, burying his face in his hands. "Samin, I shouldn't have let you do that," he murmured. "I wanted to protect you from this, from everything. But I can't anymore. I can't hide it." I knelt beside him, taking his hand. "Jeems, you can't keep this from me. Whatever it is, we face it together. I'm not going anywhere." He finally lifted his face, his eyes wet with fear and guilt. "You don't understand. I thought I left this life behind, Samin. I thought I was free. But they've found me. The people I crossed years ago, they never forget. They want repayment. 50 million by Sunday. And if I fail," his voice broke, "they will take you." I felt my chest tighten. I swallowed hard, trying to push down the panic that threatened to overwhelm me. Take me? Jeems? What do you mean? Who are they? They are men from my past. Men I underestimated. People who have no mercy. I tried to disappear from their world, but it's impossible. And now they're coming for us, both of us. You, me, everyone we care about. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. I realized how little I actually knew about the man I'd lived with for 12 years. The quiet, gentle Jeems I knew wasn't just a businessman. He had a past. A dangerous one that could destroy everything in an instant. But I refused to let fear paralyze me. I looked at him, steady, firm. Then we fight. We find a way. You're not in this alone, Jeems. We will survive. Together. He shook his head, desperation flashing across his features. You don't understand, Samin. These men aren't just criminals. They are smart, methodical, and patient. One wrong move and it's over. There's no one to trust, no one. My mind raced. If Jeems couldn't trust anyone, then we had to rely on ourselves. I had to find a way to outsmart them. The thought terrified me, but beneath it burned a spark of determination. I would not be a victim. I would not allow them to harm Jeems or me. Over the next day, I watched and studied everything I could. I noted patterns in their actions, the way they communicated, the subtle hierarchy that dictated their decisions. Every piece of information was a weapon, every observation a tool. And slowly I began to formulate a plan. I would use their greed, their arrogance, and their desire for control against them. I would craft a trap so cunning that it would force them to turn on each other. The idea was dangerous, yes, but it was the only chance we had. That night I worked quietly on the plan. I created a fake investment proposal, perfectly professional, promising a return double the amount they demanded. I carefully planted signs of betrayal, whispers of cheating, and hints that one of them could not be trusted. It was a delicate balance. One wrong word, one mistake, and they could discover me. I thought about the possible outcomes, my hands shaking as I wrote, erased and rewrote every detail. If they discovered my identity, if they realized I was the one orchestrating this, we were done. But I couldn't let fear stop me. I had to be brave. As the clock ticked closer to Sunday, tension filled the air. Jeems, unaware of my plan, moved around the house nervously, checking doors and locks repeatedly. His fear only fueled my resolve. I couldn't let him see me panic. I had to be calm, calculated, ready to act when the moment came. And then as midnight approached, I sent the proposal. An anonymous sender, irresistible, tempting, enough to ignite greed and suspicion among the three men. I waited, my heart hammering in my chest, knowing that the next few hours could change everything. Within moments, signs of conflict began. The men started questioning each other, subtle accusations, small betrayals, until it escalated. Their own greed and mistrust were turning them against each other. I could barely breathe, peeking through the blinds, watching the trap I had set slowly come to life. For the first time, I felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. The plan was working, but danger was still very real. I had no idea if it would hold, or if a single mistake would destroy us. The night stretched on. Every creak of the floor, every shadow, every distant sound set my nerves on fire. And just when I thought I could catch a moment to breathe, I saw movement in the warehouse that froze me to the core. One of the men was drawing a weapon. The others were converging. The trap was working, but so was the threat. I backed away, heart pounding, realizing that while my plan had started, the most dangerous moments were still ahead. Sunday was coming, and with it the moment when everything could be lost. Or saved. The warehouse incident haunted me long after I returned home that night. I could still see the glint of the weapon in the dim light, the way those men's eyes narrowed, calculating, dangerous. Every nerve in my body screamed that we were closer to the edge than I had ever imagined. I realized then that this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival, and there was no turning back. The next morning, I confronted Jeems again. He sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of untouched coffee. His hand shook slightly as he held it. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Jeems, I need to know everything. No more secrets. No more half-truths. What are we really dealing with? He looked up at me, his eyes dark with guilt and fear. "Salmon, I should have told you before we got married. I tried to erase this past, but it followed me. I thought I could handle it alone. But now it's too late." I knelt beside him, taking his hands in mine. "Jeems, we're in this together. I can handle the truth. I can help you. But I need the full story." He sighed, finally opening up, revealing the parts of his life he had buried deep. "Before I met you, Salmon, I was involved in high-risk underground investments. Not legal, not safe. Money changed hands in ways that could ruin lives. I walked away 12 years ago thinking I was free. I built this life with you, believing the past couldn't touch us anymore. But it did, and now, those I wronged have found me. They want repayment. 50 million by Sunday. And if I fail, they will come for you, for me, for everyone we care about." I felt my stomach drop. 50 million? For what? "You made mistakes, but they can't take us." "They can't." "They can," he said quietly. "And they will. These are not ordinary criminals. Salmon, they are intelligent, ruthless, patient. They have resources I didn't even know existed. One wrong move, one misstep, and it's over." My mind raced. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of knowing someone, and now I realized there was so much I had never seen. The gentle, loving Jeems I knew had a shadowed past, a life of danger that could destroy us in an instant. But I refused to feel helpless. Fear had its place, but action had more. I spent that day studying him, the house, every possible detail. I needed to understand how these men operated, what drove them, how they could be manipulated. I remembered the way they had acted at the warehouse. Their pride, their greed, their constant need to assert dominance. That would be my key. Their weakness was inside them, and I just had to find the right way to exploit it. At night, Jeems and I spoke quietly. For the first time, I saw vulnerability in him that went beyond fear. He confessed that he had tried to handle the debt alone, reaching out to contacts from his old life. But every door had been closed. Every attempt had failed. That's why he hadn't told me. He thought he could protect me by keeping me in the dark. But secrecy had almost destroyed us. I realized something important. We needed each other's courage more than anything else. Without it, there was no hope. I devised a new plan, more detailed than before. It wasn't just about tricking them, it was about survival, deception, and psychology. I would create a fake investment proposal, flawless, irresistible, appearing to promise twice the amount they demanded. I would plant evidence suggesting betrayal among them, ensuring they turned on each other. Their greed would be their undoing. But the plan was dangerous. One mistake could reveal me, put us directly in their path. I had to calculate every angle, anticipate every reaction. I spent hours writing, erasing, rewriting. My hands shook, my heart raced. Fear and determination mingled until I could barely tell the difference between them. The next day, I confronted Jeems again, just to keep him calm, to remind him that we were in this together. "I know what you're up against," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "We're going to get through this, but I need you to trust me completely." He looked at me, eyes filled with both awe and terror. "Salmon, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face this." "You are," I said firmly. "We are. Together, we can survive this." That night, I executed the first phase of my plan. I sent the anonymous investment proposal, perfectly formatted, leaving no trace. I waited, my nerves taut like a bowstring, as I imagined the men reading it, calculating, arguing. Every minute stretched into hours. And then, finally, I began to see the effects. Small disagreements, whispers, subtle accusations. The tension between them was growing, almost visible. I knew that if I played my cards right, they would destroy each other without even knowing it. But just as I began to feel a spark of hope, a shadow moved outside the window. I froze, my heart pounding. One of them was already suspicious, or perhaps had discovered part of my plan. I ducked behind the couch, breath held, praying they hadn't seen me. Every sound was amplified. Every creak of the floor, every distant engine, every rustle in the bushes felt like a gunshot. Sunday was approaching. Time was slipping through our fingers like sand. I realized then that even the best-laid plans could fail. I had to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And just as I was beginning to think we might have a chance, I received a text. No number, no name, just 3 words that froze my blood. We are watching. Sunday was only 2 days away, and the tension in the house was unbearable. Every sound, every shadow, every unexpected knock made me jump. Jeems tried to act calm, but I could see through him. His jaw tightened. His hand shook slightly whenever he thought I wasn't watching. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with a fragile hope. My plan had begun to work, and yet the danger was closer than ever. I spent the morning checking every detail of the fake investment proposal, making sure every phrase, every figure, every calculated hint of betrayal among the 3 men was flawless. I added subtle messages suggesting that one of them had already been plotting against the others. It was dangerous but necessary. If even one of them suspected my hand in it, the consequences would be catastrophic. By noon, I sent out the final piece of the plan, an anonymous call, masked and untraceable, offering them the opportunity to invest with guaranteed double returns, a once-in-a-lifetime deal. The words were crafted to play on their greed, their pride, and their impatience. I watched from the living room window, my heart racing as each man received the message. The tension escalated instantly. The first sign of the plan taking effect was subtle, a text from one of the men to the others, suspicious and accusing. Then came a second. Whispers of betrayal, questions about loyalty, doubts about whether one of them was planning to cheat the others. The trap had been set, and they were falling into it one by one. I felt a surge of relief, tempered by the knowledge that anything could go wrong in a split second. I had to stay alert. I could not afford even a moment of distraction. I stayed close to Jeems, watching, calculating, silently ready to act if needed. By evening, the 3 men were in full conflict, arguing in the shadows of the warehouse where they had met countless times. Each accusation fueled their anger, turning them against each other. I knew it was only a matter of time before their greed and paranoia would tear them apart completely. Then came the most dangerous moment. One of them noticed a discrepancy in the proposal. It was small, almost invisible, but enough to spark suspicion. He pulled a weapon and demanded answers. I froze, heart pounding, realizing that the moment I had feared had arrived. Jeems, unaware of the full plan, was about to walk into the warehouse. I grabbed his hand, whispering urgently, "Jeems, stop. Don't go near them. Trust me. Let me handle this." He hesitated, panic and confusion in his eyes. I held his gaze, willing him to trust me, and finally he nodded, stepping back. Inside the warehouse, chaos erupted. The men shouted, threatened, and gestured wildly. Their own suspicions had reached a boiling point. One accused another of plotting to take the full investment for himself. Violence flared. Fists, shoves, and even weapons were drawn. I watched from a safe distance, my pulse hammering in my ears, as my plan unfolded perfectly. Their greed, their paranoia, and their lack of trust were doing the work I could not do physically. Hours passed. The conflict escalated, growing more dangerous by the minute. And then, just when I feared it might spiral out of control, I heard the distant wail of sirens. Police, my careful planning had anticipated this. I had tipped off authorities anonymously, ensuring they would arrive once the men were at each other's throats, unable to coordinate or escape. By the time the police arrived, the 3 men were in a full-blown fight, each accusing the others of betrayal, each defending themselves against imagined threats. They didn't even see the officers coming. Within minutes, they were all restrained, arrested, and led away in handcuffs. My heart finally slowed, though adrenaline still coursed through me. The immediate threat was over, but I knew the danger from Jeems' past wasn't completely gone. I returned home, shaken but victorious. Jeems sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "Samin, I don't know how you did it, but you saved us." I knelt beside him, taking his hands in mine. "We saved each other," I said softly. "You've always protected me, Jeems. Now it's my turn. And we survived because we trusted each other." He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "I promised I would never put you in danger again. I'll leave this life behind completely. No secrets, no debts, no past catching up to us. I swear it." I let myself believe him for the first time in days. The house felt lighter, the air clearer. But deep inside, I knew that danger and greed never truly disappeared. They only waited for opportunity. And my mind couldn't stop thinking about how close we had come to losing everything. That night, as we lay in bed, the adrenaline slowly fading, Jeems whispered, "Summon, I don't know what I would have done without you." I held him tight. "And you'll never have to find out. We're a team, always." Yet sleep didn't come easily. My thoughts circled endlessly. The warehouse, the weapons, the threats. Every sound of the wind outside made me tense. Every shadow reminded me of the 3 men who had wanted to end us. But I also felt a strange sense of power. A realization that courage, intelligence, and trust could turn even the most desperate situation around. Sunday was gone. The men were arrested. The threat neutralized. But the lesson remained. Fear could be conquered, but only if you had the strength to face it and the mind to act when everyone else faltered. And just as my body began to relax, I received a single anonymous message on my phone. No number, no name, just 3 words that made my blood run cold. "This isn't over." Sunday morning arrived. The 3 men were gone, arrested, thanks to my plan and the police tip-off. The house felt impossibly quiet, almost unreal. Jeems sat on the couch, exhausted, his face pale but relieved. I sank beside him, taking his hand. "We're safe," I whispered, though the words felt fragile. He shook his head, voice trembling. "No, Salmon. We survived because of you. You saved us. I don't deserve this." I smiled faintly. "We saved each other. That's what matters." For the first time in days, we allowed ourselves a moment of peace. Jeems promised me honesty, transparency, and leaving the shadows of his past behind. I believed him because together we had faced death, fear, and greed, and emerged stronger. As night fell, I held him close. The world outside was still, but we had won our battle. And though I knew danger could return, we were ready. Because courage, trust, and love were stronger than fear. And in that silence, I whispered to myself, "We survived, and we will survive again together."